Let's talk herd.
I opened a book. I was looking for something, as you do, and happened to open a book onto a page which said, when you're lost in your emotions, you do not see the reality. And that really struck me. I thought how powerful that was, that we can be in the middle of something real happening around us and be a part of it, and yet be convinced that it doesn't exist. How crazy is that? Wow.
Yeah, because emotions are so powerful, aren't they?
Yeah, and holding on to some kind of desire of being accepted or validation, or I was thinking earlier about what you said about the woman who wanted to be pregnant, and because the doctors told her, because it was kind of tested and she had the bit of paper, that suddenly she was able to accept it. And it's true that if we can let go of all that, all of these needs, or, well, they're more like, what's exigence in English?
Demanding.
Demanding.
Like
Yeah,
demands.
that's right. It's like, no, I don't ask me to believe it until I've got this or this or this. If you give me that, then I'm prepared to go there.
It's like conditions again, isn't it? Like
Conditions.
Like we need that validation from the outside.
Yeah.
Or something in us. And I think when you go to that place, it's insecurity. It's like lack of faith, isn't it?
So if I go back to the personal example, the thing that exploded for me was the two different versions that I was put in contact with was the me that had to prove that I'm not mad. Even if it is true. But had to kind of prove myself to be taken seriously. And I just, wanted someone, or my family in particular, to say, gosh, Jo, that's really good. So there was that version of me that I was totally fighting for all the time. And it was like, the things that I was doing, it was all about working hard. Yeah, to be seen, working hard to prove that, no, really, guys, look, really, it's true what I'm saying. And if I work hard enough, maybe you'll see it. So that was one version. And I was living that, I can tell you, fully.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the explosion happened because that became so uncomfortable. It was a bit like your situation with Gracie. I just found myself in zones that were very dark and crushing.
Yeah.
And I was able to access, after the explosion, I was able to access this other version of me, which is like, I don't care. Actually, what's important is that I live my dream and I am me. And if you don't see it, well, is that really important? Do I need you to see me for me to be able to say that I exist? Or can I just say, here I am and I'm doing this? And I felt such a liberty. I was completely and irrevocably, immediately cut from the old version that I had been living. And what's really interesting is that when I was connected to this new version and I looked around me, I realized that I have been living my dream for years and years, but I wasn't able to appreciate it because I was trapped in this space where I had to prove that it was worth something.
Yes.
And so my dream place with my horses and my trees and my plants and all of these things that are just, it's like a warm embrace, all of these things were there, but I had so much guilt. I wasn't in the warm embrace.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the reality of me. Crazy.
When you talk about it, it feels like in the energy, it's like you were there and you had all these ties to you,
Mm,
like ties about that you weren't being recognized and those
I'm
kind
not
of
good
things. And
enough. Yeah.
yeah, and inhabiting those ties.
Yes.
And when and when you were able to let them go, it was because you inhabited you,
Yeah.
like where you are. And yes, it's where we put our mind, isn't it? Like where we put our
Yeah.
energy.
And to go back to your question earlier, you said, but do we need to go through that suffering in order to access that liberty? And I know that I was just completely unaware of what I was doing. I was unaware of my choice
Yeah.
to direct my desire towards validation. I was wanting the validation, and I was like being like a petulant child. No, I want that because if I don't have that, I won't succeed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I need it now.
Yes.
But it
And
was
it's
just
just a
in.
habit. I
I
bet
said,
you if you went like back into your childhood,
mm,
you would find you would
that's it.
you would yeah, what it was, and it was probably some habit that
Well, what happened was in the explosion was that it's something that brought me violently and instantly back into my childhood. And it was a bit like watching a television program. It was like I was in front of a screen and I was seeing a program and I was the main character. It was a really strange experience.
wow, yeah.
And I suddenly what's the word? I suddenly realized that it was all an illusion, that this attachment to needing validation and the role that I was playing in that version of myself was simply the role that I had
Hmm.
that had been reflected to me. And I had said yes to that. And when the explosion happened, so, different things that were said and done, and just put me in front of this early childhood. And I thought, oh my God, this is not right. This role, it's like a facade. There's no depth to it,
Hmm.
and it's contrary to source. And that was the real gut feeling. This
Hmm.
is contrary to the reality. So going back to that page that I
Yeah.
saw, when you're too much in the emotion, you're not aware of reality. And in a
Yeah.
split second, reality suddenly was
Yeah.
there. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've been living a
Yeah.
dream or a nightmare, whichever one you want to.
Yeah. It
So,
reminds me of a realization I had recently of like with my family and this sense because I kind of had it again. It came like it was weird. It was like it came up from where I am now for where I
mm,
am now, and I saw, oh my God, like it was like to do with not having attention, like not
mm-hmm,
having someone's attention, and
mm-hmm,
like they weren't ready or willing to give it. And I could feel myself like doing these things to gain that attention. And I was
yeah,
like, wow, that's what you've done. That's what you did. And it was
yeah,
like you say, it wasn't me. It was like this person,
added
yeah,
thing,
like
yeah,
this weird becoming someone who tries to leverage. Because and
yeah,
so then it's just like as soon as you realize that and you're like, well, why do I need that attention?
yeah,
And I think it's difficult because when as a child, do
mm,
you need attention? Do you really need it? Can you be in your source like we can now? I mean, it's a difficult.
well, it's difficult for children because, for a start, they need to be given food and shelter. And once you have that premise of that need, then everything flows on from that. So it
Mm,
comes down to being in a physical body.
yeah.
And bit by bit, as as our physical situation, we become more independent,
Mm.
we can also liberate all the other parts of us, except sometimes it takes time for us to realize that, you
Takes a
know.
long time in a
Oh, it
way.
can take a long time. Mm-mm-mm.
It reminds me of something I thought of earlier when we were talking at the beginning about Gorion and his um, defensive thing that he has in his body. And it's like our body, I think, because our body is our most um, the strongest part of the illusion, or it doesn't explain it very well, but it's like our biggest example, or the thing that we can say, like, this is real, you know.
Mm,
Then it kind of takes on those things most deeply,
mm,
those sort of patterns. And you know, even
yeah.
aging, so we become burdened with all of that stuff if we don't resolve it. And it's almost like the body is proof, it's evidence that we exist, and that all of those things that we're holding on to are real. And I
Mm,
think the more that we're able to let them go, the less our body is a witness of all of those things. I don't know
mm.
if that really makes sense, but
The body's role is really interesting,
yeah.
and there is definitely kind of a sacred link between the soul and the body. It's quite a mysterious thing, really.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that there's quite a lot to be learned from connecting with what the body says, which allows us to connect more deeply to source.
Mm.
So, like the tension in Swallow, Mr. Swallow,
Yeah.
um, connecting with that, which connects both of you simultaneously to source, which is interesting,
Mm.
isn't it? Because then it becomes a really shared thing between several source expressions. If we're each an expression of source,
Yeah.
and then we join together to express that together, then it's very
Yeah.
powerful.
Maybe the body is like a form of leverage, or oh, what's the right word for that? Like a just a sort of pathway for awareness. So it
Mm,
reflects things. It shows us things. What I love about animals is they're so unattached to a body in the way
mm-hmm.
that we are.
Yeah.
Like they really move on, and you know,
But unattached to an identity as well. They don't
exactly.
have,
Yeah.
yeah.
They use their body, you know, and
Mm,
they really like, I think they appreciate it, but
yeah.
they don't hold on to it, and they don't mind
Mm,
leaving it, you know.
yeah. And they don't try and turn it into something that it's not,
Yeah.
like many humans will do. They don't try and make it conform to standard.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just a vehicle in a way.
That's right,
It's a
yeah.
vehicle
It's
for
the I am.
experience.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about Gracie and the way that she really was a very wise being, because she was utterly she was always like utterly present in what she did. Like she was able to rest and able to kind of play and have adventures, and
hmm,
you know, just utterly present with every stage of it. You know, she never. And the only time she was ever sort of stressed was when there was thunder and lightning. She didn't like that. And wind.
yeah.
And I suppose those were things that she didn't really understand.
Mm,
But yeah, she just had this capacity for just to utterly be, you know, in each moment what she was. what she was
No,
experiencing.
that's really appropriate for her name because I think I'd like to think that we're all called to live in grace, which
Yeah,
is just, being a cog and turning,
yeah,
a bit like Gracie.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Just that ability to be able to fully live.
Mm,
Like, I think she lived so deeply her life,
mm-hmm,
so fully. In a sense, it was like, it was like so rich in comparison often
right.
with when we spend so much time in our
Gosh,
minds and so much time just not living. And yeah, it's such a gift really to see that, to be able to witness that, you know.
it's funny because I'm talking about the body and the connection between the body and the soul. And I think that when I think about our challenges of living here on earth in society, so for example, living with the concept of money to begin with,
Mm,
um, challenges, right? How do I fully live this liberty that is mine and this grace, and not be too distracted by sort of the earthly human
mm,
society things that are added on as well. 'Cause,
mm.
to what point are they real, actually?
Yeah, I think they're only as real as we choose to make them.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, I think that really is true, but because we still hold on to them a bit, they're still real for us. So
Mm. I
I
have
could,
a
I
hard
don't.
I have a hard time with the concept of money, like more and more,
Oh,
because for me
yes.
it's just not real. And
Well, it
um,
isn't though, really. If you think about it, it
no,
isn't real.
I know, and yet, and yet everything turns around that. It's just
It's
starting to
not
drive me
even a
crazy.
physical. It's not even. It doesn't even exist in
No,
terms of gold or.
no, it's just a concept.
Yeah, it's just a concept, and it's.
And I think what
Yeah.
touches me profoundly is that it seems to be a concept that can be so harmful. So I think one of my challenges today is to make peace with that, because if everything is in balance and if, darkness is in balance with light, then somewhere in amongst all of that, this concept of money is an energetic reality which has this place for a
Mm,
reason. So I don't know what that is. I've not discovered that yet, but I would like to have more peace around the fact that our society turns around that, because I do feel a bit angry
yeah.
actually. I feel angry that we're valued according to
Yeah. This is a big thing for me as well because I feel that we have made it as a society
mm,
very difficult
mm,
very difficult to live a life that we
mm,
love, to live our dreams, to
right.
to live from our dreams because trying to think why just because we're fearful presumably of what would happen in that kind of a society,
Mm,
because the whole thing about like there is no need for people to have to pay for houses, to pay
that's
mortgages,
right.
to pay
Yeah.
even to pay for food. There's no need because the
Yeah.
resources are here. And
Yeah.
actually, we're damaging like that as capitalist. I don't know that it's that's absolutely the core of the issue, but
Mm,
there
mm,
there's no need for. It's almost like that's damaging what the resources that we do have. It's damaging
mm,
the planet and
mm-hmm.
because, I mean, for example, this is something that I learned, which is so, I try not to be kind of disheartened by it, but I heard this podcast the other day, and the guy in it was amazing. I talked about it in the other one, so I won't go into that part of it, but he said that during the last president of the United States, Donald Trump, one of the things he did was he took away the protection of the national parks in America, like the protection of the trees. And this guy said that 96% of them, pretty sure that was the figure, have been logged.
Oh no.
And nobody knows this. Nobody really knows this yet. They're not really. And he said, because this really struck a chord with me, he's like, all of the people who have these like dreams of going to visit the redwoods, which is me, the giant redwoods, well, they're virtually gone. And it's just that pure greed element of our society
That's it. This artificial thing that we've created, which opens the door to aberrations.
Yeah, which means you can't even see the value of those trees. You can't feel it. You can't. You're totally
the real
insensitive.
Value. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about whatever, like money.
Yeah. I feel the same thing about the openings for people, as you said, to live what they love. Because I believe that people are guided to live things so that they can invest that experience in society, and that society benefits from it. It's the real, yeah.
I mean, wow, can you imagine how much value there would be if people could have lived instead of being a civil servant or working in a supermarket or all of this kind of stuff, if they had been able to follow their. And then again, you could say, well, if they believed they could. And I think that's true. And I think that's our kind of job, that you have to do. You have to do it even so. Like you have to do. Yeah, you have to say, okay, it's not the conditioning of the society, but by doing it, it's going to make it more possible for others, and it's going to open it up. And, there's going to be a change, because I think you can only,
that's right.
You can't sort of sit and complain about it. You just have to do it and make it work and trust that. And I think that is the awakening that's going to happen. And I think that the reason, it's like your dissonance, that's what you feel. You feel the dissonance of that what you're doing is not in alignment with society, with the culture, but that you're just having to feel it because it's going to have to change. The culture has to change.
And that's part of the burden that was taken off me recently, was to be taken seriously, and now I don't care.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I know the value of what I am living, experiencing, and my challenges that I'm facing. I know that value more and more, and that's lovely, to say yes to all of that more and more wholeheartedly. And so I'm reaping really huge benefits. And at the same time, I spoke to I know a girl, I think she's about 12. She's horse mad. And she started to speak to me about a place that she'd found. I don't know, it's not that far away, but she could go there and do all sorts of studies with horses, to work with horses. And she was telling me about all the things that they have, and and she could do her first diploma with them. And so it's maybe a few hours away in the car. And she was so excited, and her eyes were gleaming. And then she added, but Mum doesn't want me to. And I said, oh, is that because it's too far away? Thinking, it's too far away. She doesn't want her daughter to go so far away. And the mum was across the table. And she said, above all, that, she would need to have a horse to go there. And it was the way she said it. She didn't say horse, she said
Mm.
nag, that she would need a nag,
Oh my God.
canasson in French. And so
Really?
that word hit me, and I said jokingly, I said, "Oh my goodness, what a lack of respect,"
Wow.
sort of joking. And um,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the mum said, "No, we've told her that horses are not horses are only for a pastime. They're only for leisure, and if she
Mm.
wants to do that, then she needs to get a good job that pays a lot of money,
Mm.
because horses cost a lot of money. So that the way that she can be in contact with horses is to go down the route of. And they told
Yeah.
me what route they had planned out, but I stopped listening at that point. And I said, oh well, that's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah.
It just came,
Good for you.
just came out. I said, oh well, that's a lot of rubbish.
That's so cool that you said that though.
So not
That
sure that the
is.
mum appreciated it. So
No,
so the
but
conversation went
really.
on, and this girl, I heard her say, yes, I understood. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. And it's like everything's mapped out for her. And
Yeah.
so I was half listening at this point because it was all just so jarring. I said, well, gosh, there's so many things that we can do with horses these days. There's so many jobs to be done where we can be in contact with horses if that's really her heart's desire. I said, for example, she could be, if she likes sort of manual things and stuff, she could be an osteopath for horses. And
Mm.
and the mum says, yes, thank you, Joe. Like, she wanted to, like, that's enough.
Like that'll do.
That's enough of that conversation. However, I will finish on a
Yeah.
positive note. Later in the evening, someone else asked me what I do with my horses. So I explained the activity, and the mum of this girl, she said, so where are you? Where's your house? I said, well, it's about half an hour from where you are. Hmm. And I'm thinking, why are you
Ah,
asking me that? I said, you should
yeah.
come and visit. And she says, oh, when are you free? So they're
Oh,
going to come.
good.
They're going to come in May.
That's great. That's
So,
great. Yeah,
and I
so
think that,
there's a crack.
yeah, and I think I managed to slip into the conversation slightly, like just after that's rubbish comment. Like, yeah, that's rubbish. That's exactly what my parents said to me. It's rubbish.
Yeah. It's true though, but you have to
So,
plant the seeds.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
plant them gently if possible.
But then when you think about it, it has to be her passion and her, whatever it
Yeah,
is in her. And it's
yeah.
like you, I was going to say to you earlier, what do you think that it would have changed if you'd had that validation about what you do
That's a
from the
really good
outside?
question. That's a really good question, because after the explosion that liberated me from that desire, I realized that it was so much more delicious
Mm,
living something just because I wanted it. And it's
yeah.
my story with myself, and no one else is in that
Mm,
bubble. And I hadn't seen that value before. I
yeah.
hadn't appreciated that that's actually really sacred.
Yeah.
Um, and so I realized that, yeah, if it had happened a different way, then it would have not been the same.
Yeah. So I think really I don't know if things are planned but I think
Mm,
that's I'm sure there's a shape for that in energy that's really clear and, we would understand it. That you only, it's like you have to, the things that you don't receive outside of yourself are the
mm,
things that make you grow.
mm, yeah.
It's like you put your roots down, and you find it for yourself.
Mm,
And if you have it all there, then from outside of yourself, then maybe you don't discover if you don't
well, it's
discover that
watered
freedom.
down. It's a similar thing. was it was like one of the messages that Ouhmia gave to me, and I just like it just blows me away still, these messages that she shared with me that
Is
I
that a recent one?
well, no, it's the one that I had already spoke about, like the dream and these different things about her foot as well. And I just,
Mm.
it's just so lovely that I really like sharing it. And I've not really shared it with a lot of people, as you can imagine. And she said to me recently, she said, each time you share it, you water it down.
Mm.
And I thought,
Do you
right,
think
well, why
that's
would that
true
be?
though?
Well, I did sort of ponder, and I thought, well, she's right, and it's because it's what the intention is. It's not the
Mm.
fact of speaking about it; it's why I would be speaking about it.
Ah,
And I
yes.
realized that behind
Yes.
the intention and the desire that I had to share it was still looking for this contact with people and a kind
Yes.
of validation. Like it was so delicious, I couldn't quite believe
Oh,
it.
that's so true.
And so
That's really,
she kind of showed me that while I was nourishing that intention by speaking about it, that was watering down
yes.
the
It's
power in it.
impact.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
in essence, she was saying, well, just be sure that your action is pure, and the intention behind your action is pure, and then you can speak about it if you want, but
Yes.
don't weaken yourself
That's
through
so amazing.
weak intention.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? I love
Isn't it
that.
amazing how you can feel all that
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
that
I always
guidance?
feel like, wow. It's just there and you just understand it.
Yeah, and it's instant. You hear it and see it and feel it
Mm,
like in one go. And like
it is
Umi is
instant.
standing in front of you, and it's like, yeah, she's seeing it and feeling it and hearing it all the while that she's munching on her hay.
Yeah. There's part of me that says, yeah, I mean, are you making it up that's the horses? Sometimes I wonder about that because it's so nice to think it's the horses.
The horses are sharing that with us, you mean?
Yeah, that I mean, is it
Right.
not just that we're connecting with source within ourselves or but that
Well,
doesn't feel good to me. So I just follow that,
but
that
does it
doesn't
need to
feel
be
right.
separate? Because for me, I'm connecting with source in me, and Umia is source, and so I'm connecting with her at the same time. And yeah, we're
Yeah, yeah.
in that flow, yeah.
I mean,
So for
because you
me, it's the
feel their
same.
personality in it as well. Like you feel like
Yeah,
with mine, like Karamba and Amy and Honey, they've all got, and Marie, they've got their personality that comes through with it as
it's
well. With the
funny, yeah.
like it is a certain shade, it's a color and a feeling, and yeah,
With
yeah.
that recent one from Umia, what I felt behind that message as well was that the power in that sharing that she's done with me was something sacred between her and me, and that I couldn't
Mm,
just be sharing it with, that I really needed to test the person that I was sharing it with because it was, it's like pearls. You don't
yeah,
just like throw it willy nilly. It's like, no, this is really
yeah,
unique. So please treat it with that attention.
yeah.
That's very Umia. That's very Umia.